Ever wonder where you truly come from? The answer is more profound and much, much wetter than you might think. It's not just about your parents or their parents. We have to go back further, way further. Back to a time when our planet was a chaotic, violent, and utterly alien world. Back to the day the ocean was born. Let's travel back in time, about 4.5 billion years. Earth is a young, hot-headed planet, constantly bombarded by comets and asteroids made of ice. For millions of years, this cosmic delivery service brought water, molecule by molecule. As the planet's surface cooled, this water vapor condensed, and the skies opened up in a torrential planet-wide rainstorm that lasted for centuries. This wasn't just rain. It was the birth of the ocean. But this newborn ocean was nothing like the blue paradise we know today. Imagine a global sea, not of clear, salty water, but of a hot, greenish, acidic soup. It was a bubbling cauldron filled with dissolved minerals like iron, which gave it that strange color. The atmosphere above was thick with carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and methane, no oxygen to be found. It was a hostile environment, seemingly devoid of any possibility for life. And yet, it was in this very chemical chaos that the greatest story of all time was about to begin. The stage was set, the ingredients were present, and something incredible was simmering just beneath the surface. So how do you get life from a non-living chemical soup? For a long time, this was one of science's biggest mysteries. The answer lies in a concept called chemical persistence. In that primordial ocean, countless chemical reactions were happening every second. Most were random, fleeting events. But every now and then, a set of molecules would form that was a little more stable, a little more durable than the others. They could withstand the harsh conditions just a bit longer. This was the first tiny step toward life. Simple persistence. The real game changer, though, was the emergence of a molecule with a truly special talent, the ability to make copies of itself. We're talking about something like RNA, a simpler cousin of DNA. Imagine a molecule that could attract the building blocks floating around it in the water and assemble them into a mirror image of itself. Suddenly, you don't just have one persistent molecule, you have a growing population. This wasn't life as we know it, not yet. There were no cells, no consciousness. It was just raw, chemical replication. But it was a revolution. These self-copying molecules weren't perfect. Errors would happen during replication, creating slight variations. Most of these mutations were useless or even detrimental. But occasionally, a mistake would result in a new version of the molecule that was even better at copying itself. Maybe it was more stable or faster at gathering resources. This was the dawn of natural selection, happening on a purely chemical level. The most efficient replicators made more copies, and over millions of years, this simple process built up complexity, layer by layer, in the ancient ocean's chemical brew. It was from these humble beginnings, these persistent, self-copying molecules, that the first true living cells would eventually emerge. For about 1 billion years, life remained simple. The ocean was ruled by microbes, single-celled organisms floating in the vast, chemical-rich waters. But don't let their simplicity fool you. These tiny life forms were performing miracles. They were the planet's first engineers, chemists, and innovators, and they were about to change the world forever. Among them, a new type of microbe evolved a groundbreaking ability: photosynthesis. These microbes, called cyanobacteria, figured out how to use sunlight to split water molecules and create energy. It was an incredibly efficient way to live. But this process had a side effect, a waste product that was completely new to the planet: oxygen. At first, this oxygen was toxic to most other life forms. It reacted with the dissolved iron in the ocean, causing it to rust and settle to the seafloor, forming the massive iron ore deposits we mine today. For millions of years, the ocean was literally rusting. This event is called the Great Oxidation Event, and it was the first mass extinction on Earth, caused by life itself. The new, oxygen-rich environment was poisonous to the old anaerobic life forms. But in this crisis, evolution found an opportunity. New microbes evolved that could not only tolerate oxygen, but actually use it to generate energy far more efficiently than before. This metabolic innovation was a quantum leap in the history of life. Oxygen, the poison, became the fuel for a more complex and powerful kind of existence. These microbes didn't just survive the change. They thrived on it, setting the stage for bigger, more complex organisms to evolve. The ocean was no longer just a cradle. It was now a testing ground, forging new forms of life in the fires of biological revolution. With oxygen in the water, The path was clear for more complexity. The next great invention of the ocean was the eukaryotic cell. This happened when one simple cell engulfed another, but instead of digesting it, they formed a partnership. The smaller cell became what we now know as the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, using oxygen to generate massive amounts of energy. This new, complex cell had a nucleus to protect its DNA and specialized parts to perform different functions. It was a biological machine, far more advanced than anything that had come before. This innovation allowed for the next big leap: multicellularity. Cells began to stick together and cooperate, forming colonies. Over time, these cells started to specialize, taking on different roles. Some became skin, some became digestive tracts, and some became the first primitive nerve cells. Life was no longer just a soup of individual microbes. It was becoming a collection of coordinated, complex bodies. And with bodies came new behaviors. The ocean invented movement, as creatures evolved tails and fins to propel themselves through the water. It invented senses, as light-sensitive spots evolved into eyes and vibration-sensitive cells evolved into ears. And perhaps most dramatically, the ocean invented predation. For the first time, one creature actively hunted and ate another. This sparked an evolutionary arms race that continues to this day. Prey evolved shells, camouflage, and speed to escape. Predators evolved sharp teeth, claws, and cunning strategies to hunt. The serene-looking ocean became a dynamic arena of survival, where every day was a life-or-death struggle. Every creature, from the smallest plankton to the largest leviathan, was a product of these ancient pressures, a living testament to the ocean's relentless creativity. So, what does any of this have to do with you, sitting here watching this video? Everything. The story of the ocean is your story. Every cell in your body is a direct descendant of those first complex cells that formed in the ancient sea. The mitochondria that power your every thought and movement are the legacy of that ancient partnership between two microbes. The very salt in your blood, in your sweat, in your tears, has roughly the same concentration as the salt in the ancient ocean. You are, in a very literal sense, a walking, talking piece of the sea. When our distant ancestors, the first fish-like vertebrates, finally crawled onto land about 375 million years ago, they didn't leave the ocean behind. They took it with them. They evolved lungs to breathe air, but they carried the sea within their own bodies, a personal, internal ocean to keep their cells hydrated and functioning. Every single land animal, including us, is a vessel for this ancient seawater. Think about it. The fundamental processes of life, the way your cells generate energy, the way your DNA replicates, the way your nerves fire, were all invented and perfected in the ocean over billions of years. The strategies for survival, for finding food, for avoiding danger, are all echoes of that primordial arms race between predator and prey. The birth of the ocean wasn't just a geological event. It was the moment our deepest history began. It was the day our planet started its long, slow journey toward becoming a world of minds and consciousness. When you look at the ocean, you're not just looking at a body of water. You are looking at your own origin story. You are looking at the cradle from which all known life sprang. The day the ocean was born was the day we were all born. Imagine a world without monsters. A world silent, still, and dominated by simple, single-celled life. For billions of years, this was Earth's reality. But then, something incredible happened. The ocean, our planet's cradle of life, decided to get creative. It decided to invent monsters. This is the story of how the deep blue sea became the ultimate laboratory for evolution, the most terrifying and fascinating creations. Our story begins about 540 million years ago, during a period called the Cambrian explosion. Before this, life was mostly flat, slow, and, well, boring. Think slimy microbial mats and soft-bodied blobs just drifting around. But in a geological blink of an eye, everything changed. The ocean suddenly burst with a dazzling array of new complex animals. It was an arms race, and the stakes were survival itself. One of the first and most iconic monsters to emerge from this evolutionary frenzy was Anomalocaris. Its name means abnormal shrimp, and trust me, it lived up to it. Picture this, a creature up to a meter long, which was gigantic for its time, with two large, spiky appendages in front of its mouth, perfect for snatching prey. It had large, compound eyes, giving it a huge advantage in a world where most creatures couldn't see well, if at all. Its mouth was a circular, pineapple ring-like structure lined with sharp plates, designed to crush the shells of its victims. Anomalocaris was the T-Rex of the Cambrian seas, the world's first super predator. It was a clear sign that the age of innocence was over. The ocean was now a hunting ground. To survive against predators like Anomalocaris, other animals had to innovate. This is where the invention of armor comes in. Creatures like the trilobites developed hard-jointed exoskeletons. These weren't just for protection. They also provided a framework for muscles to attach to, allowing for more complex movements. Some trilobites could even roll up into a defensive ball, just like a modern pill bug. It was a world of shell crushers versus armored tanks, a battle of evolutionary wits being fought in the primordial depths. But armor wasn't the only new invention. Vision was another game-changer. The evolution of the eye transformed the ocean from a murky, blurry world into a high-definition theater of life and death. Predators could now spot their prey from a distance, and prey could see danger coming. This single adaptation drove evolution at an incredible pace. It forced animals to develop camouflage, to become faster, and to think in new ways. The simple act of seeing created a new level of complexity in the predator-prey dynamic. As we move forward in time, the monsters only get bigger and badder. Welcome to the Devonian period, often called the Age of Fishes. The oceans were now teeming with life, but among the schools of smaller fish, true giants lurked, and none were more terrifying than Dunkleosteus. This wasn't just a big fish. It was an armored killing machine. Dunkleosteus could grow up to 10 meters long, the size of a school bus. Its head and neck were covered in thick, bony plates, making it virtually indestructible. But its most fearsome feature was its mouth. Dunkleosteus didn't have teeth in the way we think of them. Instead, it had massive self-sharpening bony plates that formed a beak-like structure. These blades could shear through bone and armor with incredible force. Scientists estimate its bite was one of the most powerful of all time, strong enough to snap another armored fish in half. Imagine the sheer terror of seeing that colossal, armored head emerging from the gloom, its bone blades ready to strike. Dunkleosteus was the undisputed king of the Devonian Sea, a true apex predator. While armored giants like Dunkleosteus ruled through brute force, another type of hunter was emerging, one that favored a different strategy: speed, flexibility, and efficiency. We're talking about the ancestors of modern sharks. Early sharks were a revolutionary design. Instead of heavy bone, their skeletons were made of lightweight, flexible cartilage. This made them incredibly agile and fast. They weren't weighed down by heavy armor plating. Their skin was covered in tiny, tooth-like scales called dermal denticles, which reduced drag and allowed them to slice through the water with silent speed. They were the stealth bombers of the ancient ocean. While creatures like Dunkleosteus were the heavy tanks, sharks were the fighter jets. Their evolutionary strategy proved so successful that their basic body plan has remained largely unchanged for over 400 million years. They survived mass extinctions that wiped out the armored placoderms and countless other species. Their success story is a testament to the power of adaptation and the idea that sometimes being sleek and efficient is better than being big and bulky. But the ocean wasn't just inventing monsters to stay in the water. It was also creating the pioneers that would conquer a whole new world, the land. This is where the lobe-finned fish come into play. Unlike most fish, which have thin, ray-like fins, lobe-finned fish had something special. Their fins were fleshy, muscular, and supported by bones. If you look at the bone structure inside these fins, you'll see a pattern that is hauntingly familiar. One large bone, followed by two smaller bones, and then a series of smaller ones. This is the same fundamental pattern found in the limbs of every land-dwelling vertebrate, including you and me. Your arm, a bird's wing, a dog's leg, it all started here with the fins of a fish. Creatures like Tiktaalik, a famous transitional fossil, show this evolution in action. It had gills, scales, and fins like a fish, but it also had a flattened skull with eyes on top, a flexible neck, and robust, limb-like fins that could support its weight. It was perfectly adapted for life in shallow, swampy waters, able to prop itself up and maybe even venture onto mudflats. These lobe-finned pioneers were the bridge between two worlds. They carried the genetic toolkit of the ocean, the blueprint for limbs, lungs, and a backbone out of the water and onto the continents. From the armored terror of Dunkleosteus to the agile efficiency of early sharks and the world-changing potential of lobe-finned fish, the ancient oceans were a crucible of creation. They were a place where the fundamental rules of life and death were written. The invention of the predator, the development of armor, the dawn of vision, the mastery of the hunt, these weren't just isolated events. They were interconnected steps in a grand evolutionary dance. The monsters of the deep weren't just monsters. They were innovators. They were pioneers. They were the architects of the modern animal kingdom. Every time you see a bird fly, a lion hunt, or even just look at your own two hands, you are seeing the legacy of the ocean's great monster-making experiment. The DNA of Anomalocaris, Dunkleosteus, and Tiktaalik flows through the veins of the world today. The ancient ocean didn't just invent monsters. It invented the future. Have you ever stood by the ocean and felt a strange sense of coming home? It's more than just a feeling. Deep within your own body, you carry a living memory of the sea. Our story, the story of every land animal, begins not on solid ground, but beneath the waves. For billions of years, life thrived exclusively in the water. The land was a barren alien world. So how did our ancient ancestors make that incredible leap? How did the ocean teach the land to breathe? The journey from sea to land was one of the most audacious adventures in the history of life. It wasn't a simple stroll onto the beach. It was a radical reinvention. The first challenge was breathing. In the water, gills are perfect for extracting oxygen. But in the open air, they collapse and become useless. A whole new organ was needed, the lung. Early fish, living in shallow, oxygen-poor waters, began developing primitive air sacs. These were simple outpocketings of the gut that could gulp air from the surface. Over millions of years, these crude sacs evolved into the complex branching structures we have in our chests today. Every breath you take is a direct legacy of those pioneering fish gasping for air at the water's edge. But breathing was just the beginning. Imagine trying to walk on your fins. It wouldn't work very well. Life on land required a new kind of support system. Water buoys you up, but air offers no such help. Gravity becomes a relentless force. So fins had to transform into limbs. We see this incredible transition frozen in time in fossils like Tiktaalik. Discovered in the Canadian Arctic, Tiktaalik is a perfect fishapod, part fish, part land animal. It had gills, scales, and fins like a fish, but it also had a flattened skull, a mobile neck, and most importantly, robust fin bones that were precursors to the legs, arms, and wings of all land vertebrates. These weren't just fins anymore. They were proto-limbs, strong enough to prop up its body in the shallows, a crucial first step towards walking on land. The very bones in your arms and legs, your humerus, radius, ulna have their ancient blueprint in the fins of a fish like Tiktaalik. With lungs to breathe and limbs to walk, our ancestors, the first amphibians, finally set foot on the land. They were the pioneers of a new world, surrounded by strange new plants and insects. But they still had one strong tie to their aquatic home: reproduction. Amphibians, like frogs and salamanders today, had to return to the water to lay their soft jelly-like eggs. If their eggs were laid on land, they would dry out and die. This tether to the water limited how far they could explore this new terrestrial frontier. For life to truly conquer the continents, it had to solve this final puzzle. It had to figure out how to bring the pond with it. The solution was a biological masterpiece, the amniotic egg. This was the invention of the first reptiles. The amniotic egg is essentially a private, portable ocean for a developing embryo. It has a protective, leathery, or hard shell to prevent it from drying out. Inside, a series of membranes create a self-contained life support system. The amnion surrounds the embryo in a sac of fluid, the amniotic fluid that cushions and protects it, just like the water of a pond. The yolk sac provides all the necessary food, and another sac, the allantois, handles waste. This incredible innovation severed the last major link to the water. For the first time, animals could reproduce anywhere on land, opening up vast new continents to explore and colonize. From this point on, reptiles, and later their descendants, dinosaurs, birds, and mammals would come to dominate the planet. So life moved away from the water, spreading across every corner of the globe. But in a profound way, we never truly left the ocean behind. We carry it within us. Think about this. The salinity of your blood, the salt concentration in the fluid that fills your cells, is remarkably similar to the salinity of the ancient oceans where life began. When a doctor hooks you up to an 4-drip, what's in that bag? Saline solution salt water. We are, in essence, walking, talking aquariums, carefully maintaining our own internal sea. Every cell in your body is bathed in a fluid that mimics the primeval ocean. This deep connection is written all over our physiology. Why do we get hiccups? It's thought to be a leftover reflex from our amphibian ancestors. The spasming pattern of a hiccup is very similar to the way amphibians pump water across their gills. It's an ancient motor pattern, a ghost of a respiratory system we no longer possess, still firing in our brainstem. Even our ears have an aquatic origin. The tiny bones in our middle ear that transmit sound, the hammer, anvil, and stirrup, evolved from parts of a fish's jaw and gill arches. We are literally hearing the world through repurposed pieces of a fish's face. From the first gasp of air taken by a fish in a shallow swamp, to the evolution of limbs from fins, to the invention of the private ocean of the egg, the story of our journey onto land is a testament to life's incredible ingenuity. We look at ourselves as terrestrial beings, masters of the land. But we are profoundly shaped by a marine past. Our lungs learn to breathe air, our bones learn to fight gravity, and our bodies learn to carry the ocean within. So the next time you stand by the sea, listen to the waves, and take a deep breath. Remember that you are part of a continuous story stretching back hundreds of millions of years. You are the legacy of an ocean that taught the land to breathe. Have you ever wondered why whales, even though they live in the ocean, are mammals? Or why sea turtles have to come ashore to lay their eggs? The story of life on Earth isn't a one-way street from water to land. In fact, some of the most fascinating chapters are about life that went back to the sea. Let's rewind the clock about 380 million years. The first vertebrates were crawling out of the water, trading fins for legs and gills for lungs. This was a monumental leap, opening up a whole new world of possibilities on land. For millions of years, life diversified across the continents, leading to everything from tiny insects to colossal dinosaurs. But for some, the call of the ocean was too strong to ignore. This wasn't a simple U-turn. Returning to the water after millions of years on land was an incredible evolutionary challenge. A complete re-engineering of the body and mind. It's a journey taken by some of our planet's most iconic creatures: whales, dolphins, seals, manatees, and even some reptiles like sea turtles and sea snakes. Let's start with the giants of the deep, whales and dolphins, collectively known as cetaceans. Their ancestors were small, four-legged, deer-like mammals called pachycetids that lived on the fringes of shallow seas around 50 million years ago. They likely waded into the water to find food or escape predators. Over generations, this behavior became a lifestyle. The transformation was radical. Front legs, once used for walking, gradually morphed into flippers for steering. The hind legs, no longer needed, shrank and eventually disappeared, leaving only tiny, vestigial bones hidden deep inside their bodies, a ghostly reminder of their terrestrial past. Their nostrils migrated from the front of their snouts to the top of their heads, becoming the blowholes we see today, allowing them to breathe without lifting their entire head out of the water. Their skeletons changed too. Bones became lighter and more porous in some species to aid buoyancy, while others became denser to help with deep diving. Their spines evolved to move in an up and down motion, perfect for propelling a powerful tail fluke, which is completely different from the side-to-side swimming motion of fish. But the physical changes are only half the story. The neurological rewiring was just as profound. How do you sleep in the ocean without drowning? Cetaceans evolved a remarkable ability called unihemispheric sleep. They literally shut down one half of their brain at a time, while the other half stays awake to control breathing and watch for danger. Imagine being able to take a nap while still being partially alert. Their senses also adapted in extraordinary ways. Vision underwater is often limited, so hearing became paramount. Toothed whales, like dolphins and orcas, developed echolocation, a biological sonar. They emit high-frequency clicks and then listen for the echoes that bounce back. By interpreting these echoes, they can build a detailed 3D sound map of their surroundings, allowing them to navigate, find food, and avoid obstacles in complete darkness. This is an incredibly sophisticated system, far more advanced than any sonar we've engineered. This leads to one of the most amazing outcomes of this return to the sea: the development of complex social structures and culture. With their advanced brains and communication abilities, cetaceans live in intricate societies. Orcas, for example, live in family pods with unique dialects, hunting strategies, and traditions passed down through generations. Some populations specialize in hunting seals, while others prefer salmon. These aren't just instincts. Their learned behaviors, a form of animal culture. The haunting, complex songs of humpback whales travel for hundreds of miles across the ocean. These songs change over time, and new hit songs can spread across entire whale populations. Much like trends in human music, it wasn't just mammals that heard the ocean's call. Reptiles did too. Take sea turtles. Their ancestors were land-dwelling turtles. When they returned to the sea, their legs transformed into powerful flippers. They became expert swimmers, capable of migrating thousands of miles. Yet, they still carry a piece of their terrestrial heritage with them. Unlike fish, they breathe air and must surface periodically. And most famously, they are still tied to the land for reproduction, crawling ashore onto the very beaches where they were born to lay their eggs. This ancient ritual is a powerful link to their land-based past. Seals and sea lions represent a sort of halfway point in this transition. They are masters of the aquatic world, streamlined and agile hunters. But they are still tied to the land or ice for resting, breeding, and giving birth. They are a living example of the evolutionary compromise between two worlds. So, why did they go back? The reasons are varied, but they mostly boil down to opportunity. The oceans offered new food sources, escape from terrestrial predators, and vast, untapped environments. When the dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago, it left a power vacuum not just on land, but in the seas as well. The giant marine reptiles like mosasaurs were gone, opening the door for mammals to take over the role of apex oceanic predators. This return to the sea wasn't just a reversal. It was a catalyst for incredible innovation. The challenges of an aquatic environment, pressure, temperature, sound transmission, and finding food drove the evolution of some of the most intelligent, socially complex, and physically astounding creatures on our planet. The marine ecosystem, with its three-dimensional space and unique physical properties, is a crucible for biodiversity and evolutionary creativity. What's truly fascinating is how this ancient story can feel strangely familiar. The journey of these animals mirrors aspects of our own human story, not in a literal sense but metaphorically. Humans also evolved in a specific environment, but then used our intelligence and adaptability to conquer every corner of the globe, from the highest mountains to the driest deserts. We've even created our own artificial aquatic environments with submarines and deep-sea habitats. The evolution of complex communication in whales, driven by the need to connect across vast distances in a challenging environment, is a beautiful parallel to our own development of language and technology. We build societies, share knowledge, and form bonds to survive and thrive, just like the pods of dolphins and orcas. Their success depended on cooperation, communication, and intelligence, the very same traits that have defined the human journey. The story of life returning to the sea is a powerful reminder that evolution isn't a straight line towards a single endpoint. It's a dynamic, branching, and sometimes looping process, constantly adapting to new challenges and opportunities. It shows that sometimes going back can be the most powerful way to move forward. These incredible animals are not evolutionary failures that retreated to the water. They are pioneers who conquered a whole new world for a second time, becoming some of the most successful and awe-inspiring beings on Earth. Have you ever stood by the shore, felt the mist on your face, and sensed something ancient and familiar? That feeling isn't just a poetic notion. It's a deep, biological echo of our own origins. We are, in many ways, children of the ocean. But the cradle of life as we know it is in unprecedented trouble. Today, we are diving deep into a topic that concerns every single one of us, the human ocean, its memory, its crisis, and what its future means for our own. Our oceans are warming at an alarming rate. They're becoming more acidic, a silent and corrosive threat to countless marine species. Our insatiable appetite has led to rampant overfishing, pushing entire ecosystems to the brink of collapse. And everywhere, from the deepest trenches to the most remote islands, a toxic blizzard of plastic is choking marine life. These aren't separate issues. They are interconnected symptoms of a planet under immense strain. We often see these as environmental problems, distant and separate from our daily lives. But what if I told you that the damage we re-inflicting on the ocean is also an attack on ourselves? Let's travel back in time, hundreds of millions of years. Our earliest vertebrate ancestors navigated the primordial seas. The very architecture of our brains, the way we perceive the world, and even our complex social behaviors have deep evolutionary roots in that aquatic past. Our nervous systems evolved to respond to the rhythms of the water, to the pressures of the deep, to the hunt for food in a three-dimensional world. The balance of salts in our blood mirrors the salinity of ancient seas. The ocean is not just something we look at. It's a living blueprint written into our DNA. Our cognitive abilities, our memory, our very consciousness are legacies of this marine heritage. When we damage the ocean, we're not just destroying beautiful coral reefs or magnificent whales. We are erasing chapters of our own evolutionary story. Every species that vanishes is a unique biological library, a set of solutions to life's challenges that has been honed over millions of years. This loss of biodiversity isn't just tragic. It's a profound impoverishment of the future. We are literally wiping out the source code of life, limiting the potential for future evolution and adaptation, not just for marine creatures, but for the entire planetary system we depend on. We are carelessly tearing pages from a book we haven't even finished reading, a book that tells the story of who we are and what we might become. This might sound overwhelming, even hopeless. It's easy to feel paralyzed by the sheer scale of the crisis. But here's the crucial part. It's not too late. The story doesn't have to end here. Science is lighting the way forward, offering us a clear and realistic path to recovery. We have the knowledge to create and expand marine protected areas, giving ecosystems the space they need to heal. We're developing innovative technologies to combat plastic pollution, from river-based interceptors to biodegradable materials. Sustainable fishing practices can allow fish stocks to rebound, ensuring both ecological health and food security for millions. We understand the chemistry of ocean acidification and can work to curb the carbon emissions that drive it. The solutions exist. What we need now is collective will and action. This isn't just a job for scientists or policymakers. It's a role for all of us. Our choices matter. The products we buy, the food we eat, the leaders we vote for, all of these actions ripple outwards, contributing either to the problem or to the solution. We can support businesses that prioritize sustainability. We can reduce our own plastic consumption. Or we can educate ourselves and those around us, transforming anxiety into informed advocacy. We are not just passive observers of this crisis. We are active participants in its outcome. So what does this all mean for us, the land-dwelling descendants of ocean creatures? It means our biological identity is fundamentally inseparable from the ocean's future. To believe we can thrive on a planet with a dead or dying ocean is a dangerous illusion. A healthy ocean regulates our climate, produces more than half the oxygen we breathe, and provides sustenance for billions. Its health is our health. Its future is our future. Recognizing this deep connection is the first step towards a new relationship with the sea, one based not on exploitation, but on stewardship and respect. We must remember that we are not just living on Earth. We are living with the ocean. This brings us back to that feeling by the shore. It's a sense of belonging. The human story and the ocean story are one and the same. By protecting the ocean, we are protecting the deepest parts of ourselves, preserving the memory of our origins and securing a future for generations to come. It's a challenge of a lifetime, but also the greatest opportunity we have to prove our wisdom as a species. The ocean gave us life. Now it's our turn to give life back to the ocean. If this journey into our shared ocean heritage has sparked something in you, if you believe this story needs to be told, then become a part of our crew. We're on a mission to explore the biggest ideas shaping our world, and our channel is powered by a community of curious minds just like you. Don't just watch from the shore. Dive in with us. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an expedition into the depths of knowledge. And if this video made you think, give it a thumbs up. Every like helps our message reach more people. Your support is the current that carries us forward. Thanks for watching.